The first thing you should know about my friend Andrew is that he believes in me. As you may be aware, he has no end of patience for listening to me, my worries, my woes, my big ideas and kooky dreams, even the minutiae of my finances and how I vacuum my floor. He's also an eager editor of my writing, a champion of my capers, and a technology coach who trusts I can come up the curve of emerging practices as fast, fit, and fierce as any 20-something. What's more, Andrew regularly makes me feel young, marveling as he does at my knowledge of the zeitgeist or my ability to do push-ups on a paddleboard. The next thing you should know about Andrew, and it's a pity, is that he is not on the hiring committee for any job to which I have applied or for which I might be suitable.
The first thing you should know about my friend Mrs. Filholm is that her Friday show is back. She hosts a weekly comedy show at Greg's Kitchen and Tap House, formerly known as Growler USA. There will be masks, microphone condoms, and jokes will be sanitized within an inch of their punchlines in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The next thing you should know is that you should stay home if you're at risk, because I can pretty much guarantee that you'll catch something if you go. Laughter. Laughter is infectious. Welcome to Half My Age, a weekly show in which a 25-year-old adult and a 50-year-old child help each other make sense of the world. How's that, Filholm?
I'm just munching these mushrooms and eggs that I made.
That sounds good.
I know, I have to do one more munch because I'm trying a diet plan.
Yeah, you got to eat 5 times a day now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking a lot about your diet program that you just very briefly mentioned last episode, and I'm having a hard time figuring out how you're going to lose weight eating 5 times a day when previously you were eating no times a day.
I know, right?
That seems like a weird weight loss program, Mrs. Filholm.
I know it sounds counterintuitive. I think the deal is, Andrew, I'm eating a very small number of actual items from the menu items that I have to choose from they are very, very carefully chosen. Low fat protein, vegetable, fats, a little bit of complex carb.
A little bit of complex carbs. Is that like a piece of fruit? What's a complex carb?
The actual list is quinoa, sweet potato. Sure, yeah. You get it.
I know about
sweet potato, steel cut oats. Sure,
that's a lot like quinoa. They call it slow carb. You're looking at mostly protein, but also I guess I didn't realize complex carb was the word for it. But I think sweet potatoes are acceptable and very big in the slow carb kind of diet.
Correct. So it's that, Andrew. And then the idea, of course, is that I'm eating 5 smaller meals than you would if you sat down and ate, as I have been doing lately, like a barbecue meal with macaroni and cheese in it. Because I've been eating, as I said before, like for 3 weeks to a month there, I ate like a normal, and it was
so you eat
weird.
You eat like a normal for 3 weeks to a month, and then that gets to be too much. You throw your gloves down. You say, "This will not stand. I must reduce. I need to get on a plan. I need to get on a program. Okay. It's time to cut weight."
Okay, here's what it is. It's really not so much about cutting weight. It is, as you did mention last week, it is about admitting that it's better to feel nourished than it is to feel starving in my brain.
Sure.
Eating 5 small meals a day is probably smart because of that, right? It keeps you going. It is food as nutrition. Being limited to eating certain number of things is just easier for me. As I have expressed, one of my problems with eating is that I get so starving. I let myself go so long. I don't even realize I'm hungry. Then I realize I'm hungry. Then I'm past being hungry. Then I'm just in low blood sugar crazy. And the only thing that sounds good is something that I know is not good for me. I mean, I don't mean because it will make me fat. I'm not really worried about that. I mean, I don't love being overweight, but I'm fine. I don't. Anyway, it'll make me feel so bad. Feel so badly. I mean, if you know how much I would love to drink a milkshake like every day. Delicious. Makes me feel bad for 100 reasons. So this is more about the limited menu items on this eating plan. Work with what I know to be stuff that works with my body chemistry. very low carb. Eat throughout the day because food is to nourish your body, you simple bitch. It's that. I'm calling it the simple bitch plan.
Sure.
Like, hey, Lisa, why don't you just eat like this? And so then, and it's prescribed per meal. You have a protein and a vegetable, and there is one fruit serving per day, which might be my slice of tomato with my egg. Anyway, etc. It's fine.
That's interesting.
It's fine.
I noticed that I've been struggling the same way I usually struggle, which is keeping the fridge full of good things to eat.
Do you mean good for you things to eat or good yummy things?
Both kinds. Most of the time my fridge is empty, right? So I'm really good at keeping sparkling water and beer in the fridge, the two mainstays. But then we'll go to the store and we'll buy an armload of vegetables. We'll do some bell peppers, some onions, some sweet potatoes, all kinds of good vegetables. And then I'll chop those up and I'll keep those in Tupperware and deploy them into different meals like eggs or burritos or
high level kitchen prep skills, Mr. Bridges. Keep going.
Kind of, except, so I'm eating the same 4 vegetables every day, which is not a bad thing, except I get tired of them or sick of them. And then I completely run out, right? I'm not on I suppose my issue here isn't so much with keeping the fridge full as it is with going to the grocery store on a regular schedule, because I do run out of this stuff. I eat this stuff often enough that it stops being exciting or tasting good. And then I look for, maybe I'll just have a beer and then we'll go out instead, like the long-term effectiveness of this current routine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not long-term effective because I'm not sticking to it, I suppose.
Okay, but you do use up the fruits and vegetables that you cut up in prep.
That's true. I do that.
It's a question. Is that correct?
Yep,
you do.
I do.
You just run out of them?
I run out of them. So like I guess it's better than before when maybe I might look to eat out 4 to 5 times a week, and now I'm only looking to eat out when the larder runs empty. But it's still
not.
We
had to stay in for so long, so it's just a timing issue. It's a frequency of the market visit issue.
I suppose so. But when you run out, so that's when the dangerous stuff happens. That's when you start looking at milkshakes and exotic alcoholic beverages and stuff, because
or that's when you start throwing a flour tortilla on the stove and like in a griddle and going, chocolate chips melted on there. I mean, it's one of the best things I ever invented in college at 2 a.m. But yeah, it's not like robust, wholesome fare for you and your family. Well, that's interesting because I think, that's very encouraging to me, really, Andrew, because you're well on the way to understanding how to keep your larder stocked. You'll figure it out. You're getting there. I love that you get the vegetables that you actually bring home and eat, and that you have your go-tos that you throw them into. That's great. Oh, something else that must be said about this current eating plan and whether or not it will be weight reducing. I felt like less puffy in a day, but also see what it also does is there's no beer on that menu. So that'll depuffify me in a week because I drink a little beer, and it's whatever. I've been drinking less beer also just in general, but that's a way to not puff up. And however, dang it, sorry, that's my glasses hitting my pop filter. It's just such a scene.
That's funny. I got a new pop filter this week.
Why?
Because I quietly upgraded my setup a little while ago. I traded out the Yeti. What is that? The Blue Yeti.
Yeah.
For a Shure Beta 58 or something. Beta something or other.
Is that a USB mic or are you using a?
I'm using an XLR mic now, and then I got myself the Popper Stopper, which is a Shure product, and it's a little. Like I mentioned in my cold open and you mentioned last week, it's a microphone condom. Yeah. So I got a totally different setup now here in the closet.
Rude that you didn't tell me about it.
Well, I wanted to see if anyone would notice, and of course,
I thought you sounded fantastic last week.
Good.
Was it just last week that it was new?
It's probably a month old at this point.
I'm only half listening when I hear our stuff.
I've
You've been what?
I've also been playing with some different EQ stuff in Logic.
Uh-huh.
So I suppose month or week to week, any major differences you notice are probably not the microphone. They're probably the
Yeah.
EQ I'm applying. But this microphone's a little bit better than the last one for my particular situation because it's a, let's see, I think it's a dynamic microphone instead of a condenser, and a condenser
Uh-huh.
is more likely to pick up far away noise versus a dynamic,
Right.
which is really particularly good about getting the stuff that's right in front of it. I think
Uh-huh.
this microphone is more of a live show microphone, which means it's good at excluding things far away.
Hey, speaking of which, did you happen to notice when I submitted my audio to you from last week, did you hear major lawn mowing or anything going on in the backyard?
I did not.
Okay, neither did I. To the point that I question sometimes whether the studio is soundproof enough, for my voiceover work. Oh, I gotta tell you, I hung up with you last week, was rushing out of the studio to unlock the side gate for my neighbor who was coming over to mow my lawn. I opened the door and it was pouring rain. I had no idea. I mean, I had no idea. And, middle of the day, like literally almost noonish. That's a weird time in Colorado to suddenly have rain. It's weird. Nothing about the sky walking out to the studio an hour and a half earlier had warned me. So that was weird. And then I looked. I had already opened my gate. It was open. My lawn had been mowed. We didn't hear
Wow,
it.
that's impressive.
Right outside my studio. So that was impressive. The next thing I saw right after that so then I opened the studio window, which has bars on it, decorative burglar bars. I opened that window to let some nice fresh air in, and I saw a squirrel sitting on my raspberry bush.
Oh no, not the raspberries.
And it is laden with little fruits that at this point look sort of brown because they look like
The
pine
bush
cones,
or the
but they're going to
squirrel?
be. That's a good question. They're both.
They're both
Um,
laden with little brown
no,
fruits.
no. I mean, the squirrel is a brown fruit. No, the raspberry bush. It's really got a lot of fruit on it. And like I said, it doesn't look like fruit yet, but when it gets red, I know I have to fight off the birds and the squirrels. But last year I didn't have this really huge crop and I just kind of, whatever. It's a long story, but
You
this year looks like
sacrificed it. You gave it up. You
I
offered it up to
sacrificed
the
most
squirrel
of it. I
gods.
harvested some. I had the bird netting up for a while until at 2 a.m. I realized I have put it on here in such a way that now I can't get to the fruit either. So I ended up ripping it all off at 2 a.m. And Rafiki looked out the window and asked me if I had been picking raspberries at 2 a.m. Okay, so this year I decided I would really prefer to protect that fruit. I do have a bird netting up over it now. It's not going to protect it from the squirrels because they are little rascals, as we know. So I had told you about 2 weeks before that I didn't think I could probably shoot a squirrel with my BB gun. And I wondered what it would take. I was talking on the phone to a friend. I opened the window, fresh air, squirrel on the raspberry bush. Here's what it took.
Squirrel on the
I
raspberry
said,
bush.
I went like this. Hey, squirrel on the raspberry bush, I'll call you back. Hung up the phone, and in place from exactly where I was, inside the studio, through the partially open window and the burglar bars, like a sniper, I shot the squirrel with my BB gun.
Did you kill him?
It was not a kill shot. I did not kill a squirrel. I need to
wing
make
him?
that very clear. I want to tell you how it went down, Andrew, because I don't know the words like what that means, but I think I did wing him. Okay, so squirrel on top of the raspberry bush, okay, which is like 4 feet high, right? 4.5 feet high. So right in my vision, I'm looking through my sight. I pull the trigger. I hear the gun, and then the squirrel just disappears. Do you know what I mean? Like, it happened so fast that it was just there, and then it wasn't there. And so, my mind, my eyes are not fast enough to see what happened. We know from our squirrel video that you sent around, Mark Rober's video, that squirrel will land on its feet and do all kinds of predictive math and amazing gymnastics in the air on the way down. And then I did see it slinking away, not slinking, because those squirrels do slink, running away. I can't tell if it was injured or just scared is my point. But it was so funny because it went from thing on top of, like, object to no object there. And that's how I knew I had hit it.
Interesting.
You're probably used to that, but that's funny.
You can't confirm whether or not that squirrel has holes in it.
Oh, I hit that squirrel.
But
I just don't know if I hit it.
Hole?
Don't know. No, I have no idea. Have no idea if it made a hole or if it scared it or.
I bet that really woke him up. If he, he's just sitting there on a 4-foot raspberry bush, munching.
Sure.
That probably scared the ever living poop out of him.
And then I saw another squirrel. Again, we don't know. I have known in lots of neighborhoods. I have heard tell. The people spray the squirrels' tails with spray paint so they can tell which ones are which. Whatever. I just rather shoot.
You got to get pretty close to spray a squirrel's tail.
That's what I'm thinking, right? Although my neighbor has a thing of bleach that she sprays in their faces. This sounds so horrible, and I know animal lovers are going to have to tune out.
Straight to jail.
I mean, I know, but like, dude, I can't abide. I have such a robust garden back here, and there's such little varmints.
Garden full of garden synergies.
Why? Oh, you think of that word as a tech buzzword, business buzzword.
Robust is a word that doesn't mean anything to me for sure.
Oh, well, look it up because it's such a beautiful poetic word in the real. By the way, I have to check my email.
I think of Starbucks coffee when I think of robust. I think they advertise having robust flavors.
Yeah, well, I believe that they probably do. So then I saw a squirrel in the front yard, is what I'm going to say. And it was definitely watching me watch it from the front window. Like, absolutely, they're hilarious. They freeze in place and look at you and look away like they can't see me, right? And then I had my BB gun inside and I just did one pump from indoors and that squirrel scattered. I think they really are that smart. We know it. And they can learn things. So I also read up on how to keep them away from certain plants like raspberries. And then I don't really want to shoot a squirrel to kill it. I don't know what I would do. Like, I have a lot of questions about that. Would the squirrel be lying there suffering? Would it scream? Would I have to give it last rites? Would I see it bleeding? Would it be mad at me? Can I double bag it? I'm not good at picking up dead carcasses of anyway. So what I did is I pumped the gun 7 times. It seemed to shock the squirrel. In my mind,
7
I'm sending
times?
a message. Yeah, but I believe that 8 to 10 were lethal with the BB. That's what someone told me.
Oh, I see.
And I'm not using pellets. And pellets are what my neighbor uses. And she does, she makes the kill shot. Okay, I was impressed that I hit the thing, Andrew. I mean, I'm just saying my aim is pretty awesome. Then I looked this up, and I did put a bird net over the raspberries because I do think that will prevent birds from eating them, although I'm not sure I did a great job. Anyway, squirrels, it won't. They're assholes. But I also read up on you can train them away from the things you don't want them to eat with this liquid fence, which is foul-smelling, all-natural solution. So I've done that as well. So my garden stinks right now.
What's that? Is that all-natural solution something you purchase at a store or make yourself out of ingredients?
It's a hardware store purchase.
I see.
I wonder, they all have ideas about how you can put Tabasco and cayenne on your raspberries and it keeps the squirrel away. I don't think it does. I haven't had, I've done that before and I've never had good luck. And also, whatever, you have to go sprinkle cayenne on there 3 times a day, please.
Mrs. Filholm, I've got a piece of breaking news for you. I know this is going to be really important to you. And the rest of the world. The Dixie Chicks have just changed their name to The Chicks. This happened today.
That's appropriate. Good.
As of June 25th, and you heard it here first.
Mm-hmm.
They've also got a new album. Again.
Do they? The Chicks. Well, good for them. That seems like an appropriate thing to do. The pendulum has to swing that far, honestly. Good for them. I don't really know the Dixie Chicks very well, but often I have been compared physically to their lead singer.
Interesting.
Natalie, is that her name?
I don't even know. I don't know a whole lot about them either, but I know that they get featured a lot on KBCO. They always have, and I know them.
They do?
I know them through the radio, yes.
I never hear them on KBCO. Maybe I do, and I don't even know it's
maybe not anymore because it's all ex-ambassadors and Ed Sheeran. But when I was coming of age as a radio listener, Dixie Chicks was on there quite a bit. Sure. I suppose early 2000s. Okay. Well,
that's my squirrel follow-up, and I have one more item of squirrel follow-up. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, please.
Okay, first of all, they seemed to leave the broccoli alone, and I did bring the broccoli in. I did my first broccoli harvest indeed.
Nice.
Exciting, right? So thrilling. I have to tell you that there appears to be a low floor, high ceiling, high floor, low ceiling kind of phenomenon with broccoli.
You think even the worst broccoli is pretty good?
Yep.
Is what
and
you're trying
the
to
best
say?
broccoli right out of the garden is not significantly better than broccoli from
store-bought broccoli?
Yeah.
Than broccoli that's been pooped on in the field by underpaid laborers?
Sure. That is an image. Yeah. So, I mean, the point is that it's so amazingly cool to grow it and then reap it with your own hands. Come on, I'm not complaining. Broccoli,
cool.
Great job, and it does. It is very, very fresh. It stays firm when you saute it, and it greens up really well. But actually, the taste was like broccoli. Okay, versus a garden tomato or a raspberry. There are some things you take out of the garden and go, damn. I have learned a lot about squash blossoms in the past week.
What? Tell me about squash blossoms. What do you do with a squash blossom?
Oh, well, first of all, the male squash blossoms on my zucchini plant, they come first. Show-off, pushy men they
That's
are.
what she said.
Oh, I know. Okay. They appear first on the plant.
Shit. This will never air.
I mean, too easy. They appear first on the plant. They are showy. They are big, they come there.
Like a male peacock.
I was seeing all these blossoms. I was like, sweet, look at all the zucchini fruits I'm going to have. Then
zucchini fruits, grapefruits, apple fruits, orange fruits.
Exactly.
All
broccoli
the fruits.
I look at the stalks where I'm checking my plants every day it's kind of cute. I walk my little meditation pathway, and I also check from all angles. I just check all my little plants, like how we do. And it's so exciting. There have been so many bees and butterflies back here that I know everything's getting, all the sex is happening in the backyard. So to that point, I look at the zucchini plant, and where I have had these big, beautiful orange blossoms, the blossoms have fallen off. I get it. They dry up, and there's nothing there. Like it's like a stalk with nothing at the end, like a stem.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, is something eating my zucchini fruits? Well, this is what I don't know about growing zucchini, because when I was a kid, I didn't pay attention. I weeded all the garden. I felt very involved in gardening, but I didn't pay attention to everything. Those are the male blossoms, and they, by the way, are delicious. So now I'm picking them and sauteing them along with my broccoli and mushrooms. Oh, they're good. Have you ever eaten such a thing?
I don't know that I have.
I know. I don't know. I'm going to start. Maybe certain markets would have them. My God, they taste a little bit like a squash. It's an edible flower. Oh, so my neighbors told me this. And then the female flowers tend to come later, and they have a little bulb at the end of at the base of the flower that very quickly grows into a zucchini. It's very cool. And you can watch that happen. And so they have hats. They have flower hats now. And then I looked at some recipe with if you had a full farm of this stuff, like very young zucchini, little zucchini, which still has its female flower hat on top, you can cut that in half and put on the grill, both, eat that, the whole thing. I bet that would be actually yummy.
So I'm a little bit confused by the time order of this. You get the male blossoms first and then the female blossoms, but don't you need both blossoms at the same time to share their blossominess?
I don't exactly know how the timing works. It's probably happening concurrently, but the male ones came and showed off for a while before any female ones showed up. So I think that some of those are just shooting their wad, if you will. They're just coming to the earth and okay. I don't want to make any more.
We used to be a family-friendly podcast, Mrs.
I know,
Filholm.
and I know. I was also trying to talk about a squirrel follow-up, which is so not any of that. But the garden's great. One of our listeners sent me a follow-up gift for my BB gun.
Oh yeah?
And it's one of those targety things that I was talking about. Only it's in the shape of a squirrel. It's a metal target, and if you shoot in the middle of the squirrel, there's a little yellow circle, and if you shoot the circle, it hits it back, and then can you imagine the contraption? You've probably seen it. And then so there's a second yellow circle that then swings down, and then you hit that one to
Yep, it resets. It's a self-resetting target. Those are super fun.
But by shooting the top and then the bottom, right? Yeah, it's super fun, except that it's for pellets only, and I don't know how to load pellets into my gun yet. And I just don't have I think I have 50 from the original packaging, but I don't know where they are. So I was shooting at it with my BBs, and it's just frustrating because when you hit dead on and it doesn't move the thing, sad. However, then I realized, oh my God, I think this is going to happen in the next couple days. I'm in the market for some hay bales.
You're in the market for some hay bales for all of your livestock, or because you're going to start
That's where you
operating
set
a
up the target
hayride?
practice.
I see.
I mean, I feel like in the fall, if we needed to, and it might get that desperate, I'm kidding that this would be a good idea, but that we could, turn the cube into a hayride. Yeah, we could feed
That would be
the
hilarious.
livestock if we need to.
Put a goat in the back.
It would be fun.
Like the
Put
Yeti dragging a goat.
Back.
I have a confession.
Yeah.
Last week I changed the title without telling you. Okay, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. I'm glad you don't mind. I love that imagery, though. Now I like to think of you as a Yeti dragging a goat with your bags of meat.
I don't remember what it was from, and I remember saying it, and I kind of remember we closed on it. I didn't remember what it was about, but I don't care.
It was about your bags of meat. The goat is the bag of meat you drag with you.
Oh, yeah, Yeti dragging. Okay, all right. Yeah, I will stand that. I stand me as a Yeti. Okay, so I have this cool target, but now I need to get, what are they called? Pellets?
Hay bales. Oh, pellets, sure.
Oh, hay bales, because you can imagine then, okay, because this target and the other targety thing that I want that I didn't buy, because it's kind of a tabletop. Mm-hmm. To me, it's very small. I don't want, are you supposed to put it on the ground? Are you supposed to lie on the ground like a?
You can put that thing on whatever you want. If you want to put it on.
I want to put it up higher. I like shooting more, whatever.
To be realistic, you probably want to put it at like fence height.
Exactly. Fence height and fence with the garbage can lids open and carpet behind them also is a good shield. Okay. And I just went, how can I do this in ways that don't look janky? I mean, I need it to look not horrible because the backyard's so pretty. And I've been thinking about like, should I just, sink a stake, sink a post, and then like attach my targets to it? That's okay. And then I went, oh, this is totally a time when you would get hay bales, right? Because then you can shoot all the BBs you want into those hay bales.
I don't know.
I
suppose Delaney and I went up to more agricultural Colorado, a little further up north, and we did see people cutting their fields. I wonder if it is time to cut and bale maybe your first growth of hay.
Totally, absolutely. July will be the time when you get, I mean, for sure.
I wonder what the lifespan of a hay bale is, because I would imagine that at a certain point your hay bale stops being delightful and sweet smelling and just kind of grunchy and gross.
But then you unbale it, and then you lay it over. I would lay it over my gardens to keep them warm for the winter.
I see.
And also, I'm going to go buy a hay bale that's
mulch.
like probably a decorative one. Yeah, it's mulch. It protects the garden for the winter. That's not a problem. I've already thought that through, Andrew. But anyway, it might be kind of charming. Or as I was just describing it right now, just having a couple of poles dug into the ground that have targets attached to them. That's pretty hilarious. I also remember my hanging chair?
Your hanging chair from the old house?
Used to hang from the tree from the old house. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember the hanging chair.
I don't have the hanging chair because there's nowhere to hang it, but I just saw a thing that my cousin Kim posted on her internets. That's an old swing set frame, painted a cute color with two of those hanging from it. Oh my God.
That sounds delightful.
Like adult swing set. Are you kidding me?
How
am I not doing that? They do.
They're both working towards retirement. And as part of this goal of working towards retirement, they're spending a lot of time in the yard, and they each have hanging chairs that hang from a tree, so they can both sit back there and futz on their iPads or their phones or whatever and hang from the tree. I wonder if a hanging chair. I guess my parents never had a good tree to hang one from either in their yard, but I did not grow up among hanging chair people. But now I'm surrounded by them.
Surrounded.
Delaney's family.
Surrounded by them.
It makes me feel like I need one.
Well, I mean, I absolutely loved that thing. I remember talking about it. I think we talked about it on this. I know we did. We talked about it on this podcast in the early days because it was clear I wasn't going to bring it with me. And it hurt my feelings a little bit. But your brother loved it in my tree. So anyway, I don't have a tree, but now there's this idea. And I'm like, well, I immediately found on Craigslist a free A-frame swing set. But the guy hasn't emailed me back. because it's flakesless. But I mean, within 10 minutes of seeing this idea, I went, how hard would it be to find a free A-frame swing set? I don't think it's hard. I've also got the holes plugged in my kitchen wall. I'm going to paint a wall in my kitchen and my kitchen ceiling.
Yeah, what wall in your kitchen? You barely have a wall. It's covered in
The
cabinets and
north wall, the door wall, the only wall, as you say.
mm-hmm.
It's just when I moved in, I did a lot of different thinking about what I wanted hanging on that wall. So basically, I made a lot of very small nail holes. And the wall needs to be painted. So I'm choosing a slightly different color. Doesn't matter. The ceiling is the big deal. The ceiling needs to be painted. It will make a low key but huge difference if that ceiling is cleaned up. They did construction. They tore down walls and did construction in that kitchen within the past 2 years before I bought it. And they just didn't finish. Those people did not intend to sell the house exactly when they did. And that was just one of the projects that I think they went, we're throwing our hands up. We can't get it done. The new owner will have to deal with that. I have the paint. I have an idea. There is a difference between, there's a place where there's a scar on the ceiling where the old wall was taken down kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I have a solution for it that I've had in mind. I'm just going to make it happen. So I hope a week from now, I'll make that my goal. The kitchen and the one wall in the one wall in the kitchen and the ceiling are painted. That'll just feel great. And there's literally no reason not to do that thing. I always say I don't like doing inside projects when it's summer, but I didn't do it in the winter. Whatever. I got to get a job.
It's also been very hot out,
Oh.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
right now is not the best time to be working in your garden because you'll get heat
No.
stroke.
It's the best time to be doing paddleboarding.
For sure.
Yesterday, I worked for 7 hours in an office.
You did? Did you? Okay, so let's a little job follow-up. We learned in our cold opens that I'm not hiring for any of the jobs you might be qualified for or
Pity.
want.
Really a pity, isn't it? Because you think I'm great.
Of course I do. But
that's right.
you just spent 7 hours working in an office. Did you get a job?
Nope. I am doing a consulting thing, the thing I talked about last week.
Well, that's not bad.
it's-
That's what we in the business call dollar bill.
It's dollar bill, y'all. It's some cash flow right now. At this very, very moment, Andrew, which will dissipate by end of day, I assure you, because I'm going in for a couple hours this afternoon. I am sure I will feel better than it. Right now, I feel frustrated and overwhelmed by the project at hand, wondering how much help I can be. But also that's whatever. It's frustrating, But anyway, I'll get there, and I'm sure by the end of day, as I said, I will feel better, and I will know that we are on the right. It was just an overwhelming day, and for being 7 hours in an office was a lot for me. And I'm staring at, I am trying to figure out how to make softwares and processes here more efficient, leading to the idea that you need to be able to tell your stories for your marketing. I mean, in a way, that's kind of why I'm there ultimately. That's why they're choosing me. Is to help them tell their story and build their story brand. But there's so much back office broken. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So yesterday I went in to partly observe everything in action. And so observe the pain points, if you will. And that was just frustrating. The truth is I actually realized I came home from an overwhelming, busy office day where no questions got answered and everybody is aware that processes are broken. And so everybody kind of wants to talk about how much it sucks and maybe even whose fault it is or how they might fix it, but they really have no idea, And so I am in the mode now of stepping back and doing what I'm sure you do all the time is taking a deep breath and centering myself today before I go back in and going back in today with a little bit of a different attitude, which is, okay, now you need to listen to me. And also when I ask you some binary questions, you need to answer them, I mean,
Sure.
Well, because I'm expensive, right? I mean, I'm sure you get to this point where it's I'm coming in to consult you for you. You've told me your story. Believe me, I think I get it enough. I mean, I don't know all the details and all the pain points, but I promise you, I get that it's broken, right? Now we need to very quickly start moving toward what fixing it looks like. And for that, honestly, I need some direct feedback, right? Can you show me on your screen how you get to XYZ? And then the person goes, well, it's here. And then actually, I've also realized people, including me, hate it when you're staring over their shoulder at a computer.
Yeah.
And how they're running their work, right? I hate it. And And I feel myself in that position being frustrated that, you don't have to click there, click to, right? And I try to channel you and like Molly Erdl and all of the geniuses at the Apple store who used to be like that anyway, who would be like, do you see that little icon on the top right corner of your screen? Can you please click it? Do you remember do you know how to get to that screen? And I need to trust that he's paying me more than he wants to pay me. And, I feel a little bit guilty about that. And of course, it's half of what I should be charging. So I need to get over that.
You do need to get over that. So these people who you're looking over their shoulder, would you consider them to be technologically savvy, or are they just going through the motions, right?
They're going through the motions and they're coming up a curve, and they actually are more savvy than we think. Like actually making a lot of stuff happen. But no, and when it's worse. I sometimes feel that way, like, Andrew, it's broken, I can't fix it. I mean, absolutely no. That's why I'm there to fix it. I'm there to make the system so simple that they can't be confused in a way, right? So that they don't have to know, you can fix it if you go back here. And actually they do. They know how to fix stuff in the system, scheduling system, for example. But it's also a system with a lot of, wait, why are we replicating so many processes? There has got to be a way for all of this to talk together, and PS spreadsheets, right? But these are people in the front office, for example, who you can't say, hey, go out and learn Excel, right? You can say to these people, here's an Excel spreadsheet, and if you do this process, and I've got it all written out for you, going forward, if you remember to dump this file into that file at the end of the night, everything's going to be great. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm teaching them how to use it, and so I have to remember that half of my the art of that is listening and being very, very patient with people and not letting their frustrations get me frustrated. And, but like I said, it was kind of overwhelming yesterday, and it was 7 hours in an office that wasn't super air conditioning, which I appreciated. I went prepared to be freezing, and I'm glad I wasn't, but it was also a little sweaty and a little, just being back in a workday with a lot of people, both frustrated, but like in a generally positive work environment. It wasn't awful, and it's not life or death, and everybody knows that. But it's just like, wow, that was a lot. I maybe want to go paddleboarding, but I was there way longer than I thought I was going to be.
Yeah. Well, it's a fun project because you get to go in and you get to bring some change and make things better. I always like the opportunity to make things better. Sometimes when you go into an existing business, things are so broken, and it's really important that they stay broken for political reasons or for all kinds of ego reasons, I suppose, or just it connects to another broken system, so they need to remain broken together, which is why I generally prefer to do work with new companies, because there's an opportunity to do things right in the way they should be done and that sort of thing. But it's really you've already won the lottery in that you found someone who's interested in making changes for the better, right? It seems like the person, your customer, is sold on the idea that things can be better and should be better, which isn't always true among clients.
No, you are right. That's such an interesting thing that you brought up. However, Andrew, because I have been in that position where everybody thinks they're striving for change and efficiency, right? Everybody says that. That's why they bring people like me in or you in. But you are right. For all of the reasons that systems need to remain broken. Now, what this reminds me right now, though, this is actually very valuable before I go forward with this little client. And I think this is just going to be a couple of week job, which is, yep, like you say, great, dollar bill, y'all. But I need some actual employment. It gets disheartening, Andrew. Okay. Is that even in a place like this, that yes, they really do want to make change, they have to be more efficient. He understands why for bottom line and all of that, and they generally have good systems in place. And also he is able to tell me, these are the two softwares that we use, these are the programs you know what I mean, rather than I don't need to invent those wheels. There may be some extensions that we need to add or some things we find, because really you can't do online scheduling. I feel like you can't, but it is actually very important as I go forward in this to keep in mind Some systems are probably broken and everybody is relying on that, period. Even in a pretty functional office like that where they're devoted to change and all of that. In every relationship, there is perhaps a little bit of dysfunction that everybody is relying upon because it's comfortable. And when one person in a relationship gets healthier, honestly, it the balance shifts and it's wonky for a long time. For example, I mean, the classic example is addiction, right? And the spouse of somebody who is highly addicted wants nothing more for that person to get treatment. That person gets treatment. Whoa, whole new dynamic and imbalance, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just important to going in as I go in this afternoon is to be just maybe sensitive to some of the brokenness in the systems is familiar and comfortable and probably in this case connected to the business owner who is a lead from the heart kind of guy, right? This is I'm not out there to be a millionaire kind of guy. You know, I can't keep my bank account straight. I mean, one of the things he has asked me about is to help him figure out his business banking. And I go, literally, I'm not the person. But I mean, I will make an appointment with him to talk to the right person. Like, honestly, that's what I'm coming in is going, you don't pay me to do that. You go to talk to your banker at your bank, honestly, because it's just about flow between different accounts and when he uses his business debit card and not. And he said, I should just put it away and not use it because it's making everything confusing. I'm like, then you should do that. But I'm not the accountant, right? You have an accountant, but it's beyond that. So my point is there's a little bit of maybe dysfunction there that is personal brand, you know? He's a creative ultimately. And so that's actually good to remember as I go in is that as much as people say, we want you to come in and change everything, very seldom is that true that people want you to come in and change everything about them or their lives or even their businesses, right?
Sure. And you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe they just did get used to working around this weird, janky, broken system. They feel comfortable in knowing how it works and knowing how they interact with it. So maybe even if they did have a better, cleaner, more streamlined solution, there is you may get some pushback because it's not it's not the way they learned how to use it. They've got to retool and relearn certain skills.
And that's why I'm there is because I know I can do that part, right? It's to teach the people how to do the new systems. However, one thing I've realized, for example, one of the outcomes, the goals, and I always say I'm good at measurable outcomes, right? I can measure if we got this or not. What he is very clear about saying, this right here, this spreadsheet printout before me of a month, this is what I need. These are the numbers that I need, to be accurate in this particular format. And it's a spreadsheet that he has built that he calls a dashboard that he keeps at his computer and like in a file because he can't share it with me right then because he doesn't have his laptop kind of thing. Okay. Anyway, my point is I could very easily come and go, that doesn't make sense. That's a dumb output product right there. And it is. I was like, dude, we can do this in so many more efficient ways, better ways that are easier to read, ways that tell the story that you and others can look at. And I realized like that's one, if I come in with anything even that looks different, it's going to freak him out. I mean, it's going to feel like, no, I told you I wanted that thing. And so there's probably like a margin of change that you can get to with anybody ever, right? And I mean, that's probably what teaching is about too. There's a certain amount I can bring you up on the ladder of educating you as a student. And so it's like being aware. If I just came in and went scorched earth, new systems, that's not going to work for anybody. They desperately know they need to take a break and come in with something new. But if I come in with something completely new that doesn't look at all like what they've got, it's going to feel bad to them. And so I think I need, and the truth is, I think their software is mostly good. One thing that I can't believe, but again, this is worth a tech support call that I can make, and he doesn't quite know how to make it, is I can't believe there's no way in this software to build custom forms, custom reports.
Oh, I'm sure there is. There has to be.
There's got to be a way to build custom reports, and they don't make it obvious for you, and they want you to use these ones, and I'm not sure what that's about, but I'll be having a chat with the software people to see. And if that's not possible, then we're going to look at it a little bit different. So honestly, I don't feel the need to come in with sweeping change. We're not throwing out the system. Like I said, he's using this system. I'm just trying to find ways for him to use it more efficiently, and to, most of all, to get rid of duplicate processes. I mean, it's just, when a patient comes in, you have to look this up and this up and this up. And it's like, why are those not all on in one place, Why can't I pull in your database? Why can't I pull everybody with this toggle by their name? It's like that. So I don't think it's coming in and making broad sweeping changes that look different. And I think, but I do think I need to remember that even, for example, seriously, something that he has said, this is it. This is the reigning. This is what keeps me feeling like I'm somewhat on top of my business, is this spreadsheet. I would be really foolish to go and mess with that spreadsheet at this point,
Sure.
Maybe I can give him a second one that actually is how I think it should look. But if it's not replicable,
it's all
and
steps and
something
stages,
that looks familiar to him.
Right.
Yeah.
The first step in this project is reproducing that exact spreadsheet. And then along the way, you're just going to keep a little notebook like you always do of, oh, here's a pain point, here's a pain point, here's a pain point. And then once project A is complete, then you say, hey, here's what you asked for. And it's done. It looks great. It's perfect. It's exactly what you wanted. And here's 10 other things that I think you might need. And here's the order I think we should tackle them, and that sort of thing. It's,
and I'm doing all those lists. The truth is that I think I'm going to be there for not long enough to do all of those. And that's what he wants. He would love me to be there for a year to help him, upload all these processes and not just train a new office manager and be gone. But he can't pay me anywhere near what I need to be paid. So it's a thing. Oh, I just got news that on July 10th, we have a very big name who's going to do our comedy show in the Denver area. You've seen her perform and everything.
Do you want to tease it?
Why not, right?
Tell us. Who is it?
Nancy Norton just said she'd do
it. Nance Pants, her hit album from 1984, Nance Pants.
That's a joke that Nathan Lund wrote about her. She just won a big international comedy competition in Seattle right before the shutdown. A couple of years ago, she won the Boston Women. She's a big deal. She's an award winner. She's a major award. She is a national comedian. She's going to do my little show. The scene is smaller, so I realize this is happening, and I can make an ask like that. And some people say yes, and some people say no. Some people are still socially distancing, whatever. But as you mentioned in the open, the show was back last Friday, and it was great. It was great.
I bet the show is great. I'm sure people were dying to get out there and to participate in the thing that used to be a major part of their life. And for the last 3 months, they haven't been able to participate, go out and see live comedy and that sort of thing. But I'm kind of interested in still talking about Nance Pants Norton. When you're a comedian or a comic or whatever term scratches you where you itch, you've got like the people who go to open mics. And then you've got the people who have been going to open mics for a long time. And then I feel like there's another layer in there. And then you get to the Nancy Nortons of the world, who are touring comedians who go around the country telling their jokes and stuff. But I don't think has widespread fame outside of the comic community. And then eventually somehow you get to be Jerry Seinfeld, which is a name that everybody knows. What does that process look like? And how do you get from one step to the next step?
Same way you get to Carnegie Hall.
Practice. But so Nancy Norton, what would she have to do to become Jerry Seinfeld?
Yeah. Much has been written about this, and much more is known about this than certainly I know, even because I don't really care, because I've never considered myself somebody who's doing that, even though I kind of was doing that. There's the journeyman apprentice kind of phase, I guess. Cruise ships, stuff like that. Yeah, then there are a lot of comics, like you said, at her level who can book across the country, who maybe have a little following, but they're not Netflix special. That's the almost joke in the current ages.
Sure, you get a Netflix special, I guess.
Netflix special. That makes you, right? That's how probably anybody in the zeitgeist, right? Anybody in the normal culture would define a comic as Netflix special, right? I mean, it's changed so much. It's changed so much. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld, came up in those days when there were so far fewer. The whole art of stand-up was different. And then the path was, you're on the Tonight Show. Johnny invites you over, that kind of thing. Late night television, all of which is still big for a stand-up, getting to be, I mean, in the before times, who knows what's... The comics and I have sat around a lot saying comedy's dead, there is no comedy. For example, as you may remember, even I was considering, is there a cruise ship opportunity for me? Because that's a way you can hone those skills, have a job doing comedy, I was looking into that. I was looking into...
The cruise ship would be a natural step for someone who's climbed the open mic ladder. They're getting invited to different things. And that's I'm trying to think of the moment when you can say, I'm a professional comedian and I no longer have to have other non-comedy jobs to support myself. And I feel like a cruise ship job would be one of those points in this journey where you can say, you know what, this is going to be enough income to support myself on comedy.
Yep, exactly right. Nancy Norton, I know, did USO tours and that kind of thing, has done that.
Oh, that's a good idea. I haven't thought of that since I watched MASH the last time.
That's still a thing. Yeah, still a thing. I just heard a comic last night talking about when he used to do USO tours. I tuned in last night to a couple of virtual, like Zoom open mic, and then a friend of mine does a live Instagram TV show, just talking to other comics. And I have to admit, it like made my mood better just to talk to those guys. Anyway, so yeah, Nancy Norton, I think, has been doing it for a long time successfully. She also used to work as a nurse. I don't know her whole story particularly, but I mean, she's also she has road chops. Everybody says like
road chops.
Like she's really, really good on the road. And seriously, those competitions that she wins last year, and it really feels like it was in even February or something. No, it was right. It was in December because she was winning stuff right when my book came out, my Teenager Suck book. Anyway, she was winning this international comedy competition in Seattle, and it was a bracketed tournament that went for weeks. I mean, she flew home in between weekends of shows, I believe, and she won it. I mean, she has that kind of, like, what that is to keep going for second and third and fourth rounds of a competition and to win. That's a whole different realm that I don't understand. I participated in that clean comedy competition last year. That was my first time ever saying, okay, all right, maybe I'll participate in a little competition. Oh, and then the roast competitions at Kinga's at 11 at night. But yeah, I mean, right. I think that Nancy Norton is one whom certainly I admire. And there are several that we know in Denver who are, we would call them pros. The hierarchy also, like at a club like Comedy Works in Denver, where we're lucky to have it, God willing, let us all get through this and Comedy Works be open again someday, if that, inshallah. I miss that club because I'm running out of pens,
Do you steal their pens?
They always have pens sitting around, and every comic in this town, that's how you can identify a comic. Do you have a weird little notebook and perhaps a Comedy Works pen? You must be a comic. It's a known thing. And I mean, and they also have them like in the menus and stuff because they want you to sign up for their free tickety things. And, yep. The Comedy Works pens are a known commodity, and I miss that. Oh,
that's
anyway,
funny.
What was I saying about that? I mean, Nancy Norton books a show, has shows at Comedy Works where she's the headliner, right? And she goes around the country and does that. So certainly she makes her living doing comedy. I don't know for how long she has done that. Certainly there are others, but that hierarchy, even within Comedy Works, we can all tell you exactly where we stand at Comedy Works. Because I get a certain number of minutes when I'm there, again, in the before times. And that's out of 600 open mic amateurs in this town. We all know exactly where we stand. I mean, I know the people who are, quote, ahead of me at Comedy Works because they have earned their B spot and I haven't. We know every year they graduate people into the almost famous crew. I mean, it is hierarchical and explicit at our club here in this town. I mean,
sure.
We know
and
our
they
place
are the gatekeeper.
They are the gatekeeper for, no, not everything, certainly not. But it is important. Anybody who says it's not, and some people say it's not in this town, well, I think they're wrong. Wendy knows everybody in this country in comedy, and she has been instrumental in helping people like Josh Blue gain a heck of a lot of exposure. So yeah, I do think there's a certain amount of gatekeeping going on there. and just quality control. It's not perfect. It's comedy, right? But there is also such access in this town. I mean, for example, my little show that I host, I mean, now I for sure have been booked on other shows. Yeah, whatever, I mean, there is a little bit of getting to know people out there. I mean, I have been booked on shows with people that made me feel like, oh, I'm not that cool. It makes me feel like I'm not that cool. Nancy Norton's going to come and do my little show, right? It has helped my cred to run a good show in this town. Also, comics are very rarely listening to whether or not you're funny. That's such a true thing. And I was just listening to a podcast from some local guys about comedy. I'm not kidding. All that bookers want to know, or other guys, like, was there drama around that? Did people complain? Was she a shitty comic to have on the bill? Other than that, they don't even know my jokes, but they know. There was a guy at last Friday night show that I was kind of like, oh, cool, he's here, just hanging on the patio with a comic friend of his who was on the show. But I was like, the cool thing is that he's a pro at Comedy Works, and if my name comes up ever for it, why would it in these times? But in the past way of thinking, it was like, that doesn't hurt that my name will come up in a favorable mention, right? Because I run a very nice show. There are people there. They're laughing. It feels like a warm house. I put good comics on. I get good comics. That increases my whatever. Like, there's also a different thing between being a host and a producer and a comic, and I'm way better at being a host than I am at being a comic. I don't know. It's all very cacophonous, and it's been interesting during the shutdown that it got almost silent, and then there was a lot of, people coming back and doing some good things. There have been a few comics in this town who have started a satirical newspaper called Westish, which you should check out because it's very well written. Mm-hmm.
Westish, Westish.
Very.
It's a good way to describe Colorado, because I think we are in the American West, but it doesn't feel that way.
Right. And it's very funny. They've done that. So, there have been comics in this town putting out, there was even a bunch of comics came together and wrote a book. Everybody wrote a little chapter. I wrote something for it, and I just couldn't bring myself to submit it. It was in the darkest days of the times for me. Anyway, people have been doing things, but now there are a few other showcases open and a few more online shows that seem a little bit fun. By the way, I did a political fundraiser last Saturday night, and that was a fun open mic show. That was a fun Zoom show. Like, people were sitting on their back patios having a cocktail watching the comedy. It didn't suck. And Zoom shows were anathema to me a couple months ago. Anyway, it feels cacophonous again. It feels like there are a million things going on, and it's a many-tentacled beast. And how you make your mark in comedy, of course, there is always the special sauce of somebody who's just amazing and rises up and gets all kinds of opportunities. And I see a few young ones like that in our scene where you go, God bless them. They deserve it. I mean, they're going to rise above all of the standard channels because they're brilliant. So it's like all things, isn't it? That's boring. Want to know what I wanted to talk about today?
What did you want to talk about? I really did a good job of sidetracking you today, I think.
Because it matters, because this really freaking matters. Did you find Westish News, by the way?
I sure did.
Real funny.
Real good. It doesn't strike me as being that satirical. The first article here is Cherry Creek Mall more enjoyable now that kiosk attendants can't approach customers. I feel that all the time. I
know.
That's not fake news or even satire. That's real life. That's truth.
I know. Listen to how it begins. It's by Christy Buckley. I took her comedy class. The lives of trophy wives are getting back to normal this week with the reopening of the Cherry Creek Mall. That's funny. That's great. Oh, it's a beautiful picture of Christy. She's great. She's a pro. She's a Comedy Works pro. Yeah. And actually, well, what I wanted to talk about this week was placebo effect.
Sure. Did you take some sugar pills this week and they work?
No. I know. I listened to a podcast about the placebo effect, and I had Reiki and all of it.
Yep.
That's what I thought we should talk about, but now it's the end of our podcast for this week, so we'll have to table it. I even took some notes on it. Did you get the thing I sent you also about a podcast about how squirrels bury their nuts and find them again?
I got it. I didn't listen to it, but I'll listen to it for next week.
You don't have to.
And
we
can discuss placebos and squirrel nuts.
Squirrel nuts.
A week from now.
That's what he said. That's what I don't know. You know what Delaney would probably really love?
Squirrel nuts.
a comedy show live on Friday nights.
Maybe.
Oh
Maybe,
my
but
God,
I have it
it
on
was
good
so
authority that
fun.
if you go there, you'll catch something.
Why would you say that, man?
Because
I
it was on
mean,
a hit
listen,
podcast.
I know.
Our hit podcast.
It feels like we're definitely, and I kind of like we're gonna get out and do the show while we can before the second shutdown. I can't tell if we're assholes or heroes like always, but I can tell you this: everybody there laughed real hard at least a couple of times, and way more than that, which feels unbelievably good. Everybody looks so beautiful to me in restaurants. Also, I realize it's probably because at a certain point you sit down and then I'm at the mic and we have all the sanitizer and shit, but I'm seeing full faces and not masks. So human being faces probably look beautiful. And also when I got up to do the mic check, it was like, oh my God, it was so good. So good. It was so fun. And other comics were there. The problem, here's who's going to be the problem. And the second wave culprits, once again, is the comics. Because those guys are not respecting the social distance. They're all hanging on the hang. And there were a bunch of comics who came. Normally you'd come to a show like that to hope that you got a drop-in spot. And I gave one of those away. And after, we shut down a tiny bit before. No, we did not. We were scheduled to end a tiny bit before the end scheduling time, but the headliner went really long because people were eating it up. So I thought we might have 10 minutes or so, and I asked a couple of comics, like, "Hey, do you want to?" Oh, sorry, my phone. I thought I had everything turned off. Do you want to do a quick 3? It feels good to get back at the mic. And all the comics went, "Oh, no, we're just here to support. No, I don't want to get up at the mic. I'm scared." But what I really realized it was about supporting the show, but it was because we miss the hang. We miss, at a certain point, right? I'd been doing it really pretty aggressively for a year. And halfway through that year, you realize every single night of the week, if I am bored, if I am lonely, if anything, whatever, it's like I literally know where 50 to 100 people are who would be happy to see me on some level. Or they might roast the shit out of me. But they get me, and I know where they are. And they also keep weird hours and don't judge me, and they're good for a laugh. And I have this new idea, and they're willing to talk through it with me. And something funny might happen. Huh. Boy, that's a weird thing that we missed. And that's what people were just a very few people. In the past, it would be 50 people at an open mic. This wasn't even an open mic. And there were maybe 6 extra comics or 8 who came in and out through the night, just checking it out. We miss that thing we do. Yeah. Well, there you have it. I mean, it is a weird thing we do, but laughing is great, Andrew.
Of course it is.
I did almost all new material last week too.
Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, I bet you can. You'll love it. You'll
Anyways,
never ever hear it. Okay, well, hope we brought some ruckus and all that. Check out Westish, a satirical newspaper. It's funny.
Well, of course we did, Mrs. Filholm. Goodbye.
Okay. Bye, Andrew.